to what extent does the reporting season affect how you pick the stocks going forward, how you review your current list?
So yeah, obviously full year results, the most important bit of information you get on a stock usually for any given year. So to get the performance on the past year and then the expectations going forward is obviously critical.
Right.
And also just where management's at, what sort of strategic initiatives they're trying to employ, and also checking how they went on sort of what they said they were going to do last year.
And is this particularly so with smaller companies where a big bank is maybe quarterly, it's under intense monitoring all the time? Is it the case with your companies? Perhaps they only come twice a year to actually tell everybody what they're doing.
Exactly right. Yeah, much more critical for smaller companies. So larger companies, what they're doing is much more well known by the wider public, and you get that news flow in the papers and the media. There's a lot of smaller companies which just don't even feature in the media at all.
Yeah.
And it becomes really important to look carefully at their results, listen to a management presentation, and you often get small caps that really react much strongly to full year results than the larger caps.
Both ways,
both ways,
positively
exactly.
or negatively.
Yeah.
How do you calculate the intrinsic value of a stock? Could you briefly just tell us how you do that, and can you do it for every stock?
Yep. So it's more suited to some stocks than others. Usually companies where you can predict the long-term forecasts easily. So sort of 5 years of forecast. If you can do that with a degree of confidence, those kind of stocks are more suited to an intrinsic value calculation. The way we do it is a discounted cash flow. So forecast out your earnings, decide your cost of capital, and then that'll give you your valuation.
So that's the variable, isn't it? Deciding your cost of capital. Like that's a crucial variable, isn't it?
The key skill is your assumptions. You can make the valuation what you want it to be.
Yeah. So you can move the numbers up and down.
You can move the numbers. So those five or six key inputs are critical, and they're what you've got to get right.
And just what else would be critical?
So cost of capital, margins. So going forward, what kind of sales growth you think you'll get? What kind of how much of that falls down to the bottom line? Dividend payments. Expansion opportunities. It just all comes down to your level of conservatism in forecasting your earnings. So ideally what we want to do is get a base kind of valuation. So if there's a wide range, we want to look conservatively and make sure that we can justify the price on sort of our low end assumptions.
Right. Rock bottom. Jack asks, how does the average punter assess the management of a company?
For a retail investor, I think it is a little bit trickier than somebody who's, I suppose, like us, where quite often we can pick up the phone and we do get access to the CEO. There's one advantage of being an analyst or working.
You get the CEO on the line.
That's right. We can usually get the CEO on the line, and most of the time they are quite eager to talk to you, even meet up with you.
Is this because not many people are looking? Because they don't have so many stockbrokers watching them as much as, say, a top 100 company.
I think there's one part of it, and I think the other part is driven, and this is just my guesses, also perhaps driven by a little bit of anxiety that we would publish something that
they want to represent the company.
That's right, which would put a company in a bad light, and so they want to make sure that they're on the front foot to address any concerns.
And do they answer all your questions?
Yes, by and large, well within obviously the law and what regulators expect of them. Yes, they generally are forthcoming. Some of them, I think the reality is it does take a bit of practice as well.
Yes.
When it comes to sussing out, getting a sense of whether management is being frank with you or just trying to spin you, so to speak. And I have to say that I think women compared to men tend to have the advantage there because they tend to be able to, I suppose, read people a little bit better. But if you have that gift or that skill, then I would really encourage you to attend as many AGMs as possible, meet management, in the flesh, because
it can make a big difference, I expect.
That's right. A lot of things can tell you about the type of person that he or she is, and the type of values they might carry, and whether those values are compatible with what you expect of the company. And that's probably a good way to go forward.
That's how you reconcile the numbers and the people and put it all together in your assessment of a situation.
Yeah, but it's still a lot more an art than a science, right?
Yes, because I imagine it's the people that really change. They're the real variable, aren't they, compared to the forecast.